Welcome back, boys and girls. So, we're still reading our really amazing story, chapter 4. So, I hope that you're enjoying and learning so much about the Maya people and their myths and how they, started to begin to explain how the earth was created and its people. So, we're on our last page, page 30. So it says, "But all was not well. The Corn's men's sight was so good that the gods became jealous of them. The gods did not want to share supernatural powers with the earthly beings. They wanted to make sure that the gods remained more power than the men on earth. So the gods decided to cloud the corn men's vision, and they threw a mist over the corn men's eyes. Now the corn men could only see things nearby. By blocking their distance vision, the gods destroyed some of the corn men's wisdom and knowledge. When the corn men awoke the next day, they found corn men laying beside them. The gods had given them each a wife. Together with their wives, the corn people multiplied. In time, there were many nations of people. Some were light skinned, others were dark. The people formed different classes and spoke many different languages. These multicultural people spread out across the land and filled every corner of it with praise for the gods. Tepu and Kontamant thought back on their creation of earth. They thought about the clay people. They thought about the wooden people, and they created a world of thinking people who were grateful for their lives. The God of the heavens were pleased too. Now millions of creators, um, creatures, respected and honored the gods, praising them and making sacrifices to them. So, boys and girls, what an amazing story. You know what I want you guys to do? To go back and read it yourself. So remember to log in and click on the link so that you can read the story yourself in your reader online. Okay, so first let's before we move on to our next portion, let's discuss that big question that we discussed before we even started reading. So remember, boys and girls, our question was, how does this sacred Maya myth explain the creation of Earth and its people? So we already know, as we just read, the Maya, this was their way of explaining how the earth became and its people. So it talked about how the gods made the water and they dried up the dirt, so it was the ground and the water. And then they talked about the three times, the three attempts. They talked about how the animals were created and their names. And then they talked about the three attempts that the gods made of trying to make people remember the clay, but then it got too hot and they melted. The wood, they were too stiff, and then they became what, monkeys. And then lastly, they made them out of corn, the corn people. So they ended up being what the people that we have now, the earth and its people. So that was their explanation of the earth and its people. So isn't that amazing how after we read our story, we were able to answer our big question? So it's always good to keep that big question in mind as you continue to read throughout the chapter. Okay, now, boys and girls, our next assignment is our word work. So, nurture is one of our vocabulary words, and it means to care for something or someone so that he or she flourishes. So your parents nurture you, your teachers nurture you. So it's all nurture, just something to care for something. So for example, they have a sentence here. Claire's teacher Claire's teacher asks students to nurture the plants in her herb garden. So that means to care for them, give them water, make sure they get the proper sunlight, give them their food. So that is nurture. So I want you for number 2 and 3 to answer these questions. So for number 2, it says, what are some other things that need to be nurtured in order to flourish? So think about that. What other things do you think you need to kind of nurture, that need that nurturement and things like that? And 3, what part of speech is the word nurture? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it a pronoun? What do you think it is? And then we're going to stop right here and pick up with your last portion of your assignment for reading today.